Good afternoon. It is July 12th? Saturday? I think. 11th or 12th. I don't know. Whatever. Got a pile of parts here. Getting ready to do a little bit of work. So this is for the hot water system. Yes, mixed projects everywhere. Sorry. It's a mess. Currently, it's kind of a complicated thing. If you've never seen any of the videos on our hot water system, so this switch here controls the power that goes to the water pump. It's I believe it uses like 8 to 10 watts. Right now it switches in up position, so it is getting power from a 20-watt solar panel outside and circulating water coming from 450 foot of black hose out in the sun. And then in there, can't see it real good, there's a 600 watt 24 volt DC water heater element, and that is powered by our dump load control. The dump load is programmed to take excess spillover power. I got it clicking, I believe, at 28.1. So it activates, it sends power to that. At 26.7, it turns off. Not every day in the summer do we get bright enough sun that, you know, we've got a lot of spillover, and the 600 watt load very quickly pulls us back down to that 26.7. So I'm going to experiment a little bit first before I go ahead and open up the water tank, make a big mess. This is a 150 watt 12 volt, but I know you can run varying voltages within certain, degree of reason to these. So yeah, it's 150 watt 12 volt element, and I'm gonna wire up a meter and some connectors and dip that in a jar of water and hook it up to 24 volts and see exactly how many watts it's pulling at 24 volts, and kind of just judge and see how fast it's heating up water. So we'll check. All right, here's your rig. So I got our element submerged in water right up to the lip, right up to the seal, as if it would in a water tank. Got one lead hooked up, meter running. It's showing 26.2 volts, about intermittent because the washer's going. And this guy's ready to slip on. So, oop, it's a little snug. Back it out just a fun so I can slip around and do this one-handed. There we go. Way more than 150, and that is heating water instantly. See that? It started pushing the water up. It was getting hot that fast. So I wonder what my actual, or the one that's in the tank, is actually running, because this one's rated at 150 and she's pulling 600 and change, and it's really not dipping the voltage too bad. This is about to boil. I'm gonna disconnect her. Uh-oh. Come on. There we go. Look at that. That was boiling, that water. It was totally just boiling. Whoa. I'm gonna have to hold that above it because it's trying to. I expanded it quite a bit. I don't want to get top of that wet. I suppose I can just pull it out. Well, that's awfully interesting. So, we've got hot water in the tank right now. I want to shower tonight. I'm not going to dump that water. That was heating up all day with the solar thermal system. We already invested energy into it. I'm not going to dump it just to waste it and do more experimentation. And I'm going to put this one in there tomorrow and pull that one and do the same test maybe before I seal it all up, decide whichever one uses less power is the one that goes in. I have a second one, and there is a slot for a second one right here, so perhaps I will get a second dump load controller and do a two-stage dump, and you know, I don't know, we'll see how the other one tests out. I got a feeling that thing is pulling way more than 600 watts, because when that one kicks on, it really dips the voltage fast, and this really didn't do a whole lot to the voltage. It only pulled her down just a real little bit. So I don't know, we'll see tomorrow morning. All right, it's the next morning. Draining the tank right now. It's got to be getting close so I can pull the old element and test that one. Interestingly enough, while I was waiting for that to drain, so like I said yesterday, this is a 12 volt 150 watt element, and you can obviously put different voltages through these. They're literally just a resistor. Come on, focus. So the benefit of having see if my tripod cooperates. Benefit of having a bank with 6-volt batteries. These are 6 volts, these are 8 volts, so 3 in a series makes 24, 4 in a series makes 24. 2 in a series makes 12. So right now, I probably can't see that. I'm just going to connect this, and I'll bring the camera in. And this is not going to boil as fast as it did yesterday. 140 or so watts. How about that? Yeah, that's crazy. So doubling the volts like quadruples the power draw of this particular resistor. So that's got me wondering, so I could rig this up where it's pulling 12 volts straight off of the bank if I wired it separately. Because the controller only needs to run off 24 volts and it'll still trigger at whatever I tell it to trigger at. But the solenoid is simply just controlled by the low voltage output from the controller. So I could take this guy and pull from 12 volts directly off the bank. Because I was in my head, the reason I ordered these 150 watt elements was I kind of wanted to, you know, if they actually only drew 150 watts, or, you know, maybe I was sort of hoping it was more like 300 at 24 volts. I knew it was going to be more. Yeah, now it's starting to get hot. Amazing what a difference. That was seconds yesterday, and it was boiling, that water. So, kind of what I had in my head, you know, what I was hoping was that it was between 150 and 300 watts actual output. I don't know if I'll be able to get one that can do that with 24 volts. But what I had hoped for was something like that, and I could hook one of them up, maybe the higher one in the tank, on a thermostat, and have that heating all the time, because 150 to 300 watts pulling off of this bank really isn't a big deal. You know, and have that on like a 105 degree thermostat or something. I could have it digitally controlled, so it would be pretty precise. Put the probe right, I couldn't put the probe in the tank, but I could put it right on the tippy top of the tank, so it would have a pretty good indication, and then have that shut it on and off. And what I had in my head was to take the power from the solar charge controller, the load control, so if it ever drew it too far down, the load would shut off before it brings the batteries into critical. I could have the load controller set for like 12.5, or, you know, or I mean 24.5, so it never brings us below 24.5. So as soon as there's some sun in the sky, it starts to charge, it starts to raise voltage, it'll immediately start heating water. And if it's the upper element in the tank, it's really only working on that top half of the tank. And then the dump load, I could have a higher wattage one down below that would heat up the rest of the tank as batteries climb closer to full. I wanted to have kind of a two-stage, or I could have a separate dump load controller and have it operate that way as well. That'd probably be easier, safer, a more reliable circuit, less moving parts, but that was the idea. So I guess what I'm going to do now is pull the element that's in the tank, see what that one tests out to. And like I said, I've got a second one of these. This idea is not complete yet. I'm still putting the pieces together in my head. But testing, thorough testing is where we start, you know. So yeah, here's the very same element at 12 volts, drawing 138, 140 watts. Just starting, well, no, now it's starting to get pretty hot. So we'll take that off the 12 volts. I'm going to try not to mess anything up. And that's exactly what I did. Alright, mess cleaned up. I got the element out of the tank, ready to be hooked up. It's been in there, oh geez, 4 or 5 years. Considerable size difference between the two. That's 150 water. That is from Thermodyne. I don't know if you can read that. Come on, focus. 24 volt, 600 watt. Oh, that one is labeled on there. 12 volt, 150 watt. So, got a new container. I'm going to use the tripod for this part. And then I'll bring it back in. Oh, maybe you can see the meter. Sure. It's not a great tripod. Kind of barely is hanging on for dear life here. Oh goodness, I'm sorry about I waste all my money on other stuff other than filming equipment. I've mentioned quite a few times that the YouTube channel is not here to generate good content. I'm just here to share my ideas, and if I can save somebody a buck in the process, that's the plan. So let's hook her up. $720. So what the other one was using, 620. Let's see voltage drop. Pulls a volt out of her. 28.7 amps, 720 watts. And yeah, that's heating up the water, it seems like pretty darn quick. Bigger container, so it's not boiling it instantly. We're gonna go with the other one. More surface area. I see that it's dropping, and I didn't really get a chance to test that with the other one because I had to disconnect it so fast because the container was boiling the water so fast. Let's do this live, huh? Side by side comparison. Yeah, that's a lot better. I can live with that. I'm going to keep it centered so I'm not melting plastic. And I'm curious to see if this one starts to drop now, like the other one. Yeah, a little bit. Let's let it get hot. As it heats up, it should get more resistive. So that makes sense. Yep, there she's going down a little bit. You know, that's 120 watts less, and I think I'll be able to sustain this for longer. without, and use it on the dump load, and it's not gonna suck power down so fast. And with this one being longer, it's a lot more surface area. So I see that just heating more effectively. Yeah, this jug is getting nice and hot at the top anyways. She's really not dipping, just maintaining. That's interesting how it's 590 today, when yesterday it was more like 620. I wonder if that's just the voltage difference, because we're at like 24.8. We were probably closer to 26, 27 when I was testing yesterday. So that's interesting. What a little change in voltage will do. Okay, so I'm gonna go with this one. All right, stay tuned. All right, so new element is in. I'm gonna reprogram the dump load controller for quite a bit lower. Let's get her to kick on at 27.5 and tell her to kick off at 25.5. And we'll see what that does. She's pretty sunny, but a little overcast. There's some clouds hanging over right now, so we don't got buttloads of power coming in, but that's supposed to clear up, and we should have full sun coming in soon, all 1600 watts. That gets the bank up to full pretty darn quick. So that, you know, 5 and some change coming out of it, going into the hot water tank, I don't think is gonna, I don't know, I guess we'll see. My Amazon package didn't arrive soon enough, so the second element is gonna have to wait. It is coming today, but it's not here yet, and I don't want to wait till whatever, potentially this evening, to start heating water, because it's Sunday, and you know, we all like to scrub up before the new week starts. So I've got her switched back to solar. So the solar panel outside is circulating water through, judging by the sound of the pump. It is relatively indirect. It is still early. I guess I could show you that real quick. But there should be a lot more power going to this today, having that reprogrammed. And that's going to heat up this whole tank, you know, from the bottom up. Nice thing about the way this is set up, with the pump circulating water in from the very bottom of the tank, this thing never builds up calcium. You saw that element, like that was in there for 5 years, and had very minimal buildup on it. So that we don't get the problems with the tank. It's going to make this tank last longer, honestly. And we keep our 30-gallon capacity because we're not filling the bottom of the tank up with calcium. It never gets a chance to settle like a normal tank does. So we will check this out later and see what we get for temps. All right, about 6:30. The sun has been off of the solar thermo panel for a while. She just finally stopped clicking and sending power to the element. What do we get up to? 103. That's awesome. So I got 30 gallons of water hot enough to do some dishes with, and you know, get a couple showers in. So that's way cool. That's just the first night. It was kind of a hazy day because I don't know, there must be a lot of smoke in the air. I guess that problem in Canada isn't over yet, but power wise, what did we do? We settled back down to 26 volts. 9.1 kilowatt hours came in today. I didn't have this hooked up until, geez, we weren't live until probably close to 11 before I had water back in the tank and power coming. Geez, it was close to noon. It was almost high noon. So I really didn't get a whole day's worth of power, not even close. So on a full sunny day, that's definitely going to get up above 115, closer to 120, which would be totally sweet because that's the way I like a bath. So, awesome. I think just, you know, even at 120 watts less is definitely lugging down the dump not as much, so it's not dragging it down and clicking so fast. The solar was able to just, you know, float it and continue to charge, having that little bit less on the dump. So I'm happy with it. I think in the future with the other element that did finally come in, I think I'm just going to run that direct off solar panel. I was looking through the day. I can get a 200 watt panel for like 150 bucks. Might just try that, and that will go in the upper slot in the water tank, and that'll just be charging along with, or I mean, you know, heating along with the rest of this system all day, all summer. And in the winter time, we don't need any of this because the wood furnace does the job, and that keeps her 120, 130 all winter. But in the summer, that's kind of our, you know, just having hot water available earlier in the day is the goal here. And I think I'm gonna call her a success. So awesome. Thanks for watching. God bless you.